Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting at 6:32. Welcome, everybody who's here. If you are going to make a public comment in just a couple of minutes, please let us know if you're on screen so that we catch your hand. Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Can I add one? I'd like to have a moment to discuss the KES bus route. That's okay.
You can do that during public comment if you want.
Okay, I can do that too. All right.
Anybody else? All right, is there a motion to amend the agenda?
Do we need one?
Yes, we do.
I thought it was gonna be in public comment.
Oh, well, that's true. True. You don't need one, you're right. Thank you. All right, at this time, I will open us up for public comment. Kate, do you want to start?
Yes. I would. So, my discussion with this is twofold. One is just to bring the situation to the attention of the full board. And the second is to kind of discuss what the contractual obligations that Butler Bus has to the district. The Killington bus, elementary school bus, is not running this week, just AM or PM. We found out about it at 12:20 on Friday. Which is significant because there are children that just aren't gonna come to school this week because they can't get to school, their parents don't have cars. So I think it's important to talk about, that it's a big deal. And what is Butler Bus's obligation to us as a district? Financially, to compensate for that, since it's a driver that's not being run. And could those funds be used for rideshare purposes and or after school, the after school program to kind of help people that generally can't afford the after school program, aren't enrolled in it, don't use it because they take the bus to other situations. So that's what I would like to open up in my public comment.
Is it due to a lack of a driver?
The driver quit, retired. I would assume the driver gave adequate notice to Butler, but that's not for us to manage necessarily, so I don't know. But I know the district, Mayor Gusenberger, didn't know until Friday that there'd be no bus driver indefinitely. I think they're looking at it on a week by week case. So as of right now, next week is not covered. And I would assume again, we find out Friday again, if the next week is covered. So, but what their personnel situation is, I don't know. And I don't know that it matters. I just think,
Yeah,
that's for them to manage.
Is it okay if I respond?
sure.
So the contract is that if a run doesn't run, then we are not charged for that run. So there is the only thing in the contract, they don't guarantee drivers, but they do say if they aren't able to provide a run due to not having a driver, then we don't get billed. And I know Jim takes, and I think, yeah, Jim's on the call. He's on vacation, but he's zooming in. But he does keep track of when it doesn't run, and they've been really good. And when they don't have a driver and the run isn't happening. I know that Mary and Shane have been looking on some ideas. We looked, and I asked her to look at their attendance and impact, because this isn't the first time this year that the elementary bus hasn't run. So my understanding is there's some conversations happening about how it's primarily one area that serves Killington that is most challenged in terms of transportation. And so they are working on a plan to meet that need. It is drivers and driver situations. I know people are doing all kinds of ways of promoting, but trying to find bus drivers since day one. And I know Raina, even the week before school started, we weren't guaranteed to have bus drivers for every run. When we offered the contract out, they were the only company that offered to fulfill our contract.
Which I understand, and that's come up many times. You're right, the bus hasn't run a day or two here and there for sure. But part of outsourcing this is that we don't have to manage that. So I guess what I'm wanting to know is, when we aren't charged for that, can that money be reallocated to the after school program so that kids can stay later, or rideshare? To alleviate KES from having to figure that out. And at no point do I doubt that you guys are all over this and handling it and things are being taken care of. But if we don't talk about it, mention it at a full board, all of a sudden we're at the end of the school year, people are like, oh, this happened here, this happened here, this happened here, and we're not talking about it as it goes. It's been an issue, we've had this come up before, this is the longest I've known that we haven't had a driver. And again, people can accommodate a day here, an AM shift here, a PM shift here, for sure. That we're at an entire week now
Mhm.
without necessarily a solution.
Mhm.
And I don't, not that we're gonna have the solution here at this point, my point was to let everybody know and to, look into whatever that financial impact is on the school and make sure that we are able to get these kids, not have any kind of barriers to getting children to their public education.
Mhm. Well, I'll talk to Jim when he comes back and see what
All right,
our options are.
you're lucky you're on vacay.
Thank you, Kate. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment, public comment? All right, then we will get started. I do have one public comment. Today Sherry called me and told me that a Woodstock Union High School graduate named Victor Ambrose won a Nobel Prize in Science for the discovery of microRNA. If Jen would like to tell us what that is, that would be great, because I've read the whole. I don't understand 90% of it.
I don't understand a lot of it either. I taught science a very long time ago. I just had to look up the difference between mRNA and microRNA. So that was learning for me. So mRNA eventually codes for proteins, and microRNA are just about gene expression. So this is some cutting edge research that I guess the honor was long overdue for their work. So super exciting that he attended our school.
And he wasn't even the valedictorian. We were able to, Dan North, pull the year up and pull this transcript. I will not share his grades.
I have the.
No, you can't.
The year.
Okay, the year.
Anyone would like.
Yeah. But, yes, it was very, Boston Globe called us and shared, I had no idea. And if you go and look at, we aren't referred, it says he was born in Hanover, but he did attend Woodstock Union High School. And one of our retirees.
One of our retired teachers, Bob Bibby, who was, I thought he was old when I started teaching in '80. And he was there in '72 when Victor graduated. Turns out he's a neighbor. And the kids grew up together with his kids. And he knew the whole family, the parents. He wasn't sure he should talk to the Boston Globe, but I assured him that he should. I've looked at some teachers there and I've identified a couple more that I think are still alive. Most of them are not. And I'll try to contact, because this reporter would like to do a little story about his early years. And he came from a farm family, and his father was escaped Poland in a concentration camp situation. So he comes from a very interesting background. And Bob's comment was the children were all uncommonly brilliant. So, and then Nancy Stockwell, one of our teachers at the elementary school, sister graduated with him, and she knew the family and said they were all really smart. So anyway, I'll send this around if you want to take a quick look at it in the yearbook. It's kind of interesting. All right.
It's not every day that we have a graduate that.
No, I don't think we've had any that I would know of, but in recent years.
Owen, maybe in the future.
AKB for sure. Hated.
All right, then we will move into the reports, starting with Sharon.
So just to report, I think thus far we've had a pretty smooth start to the school year. I receive all the behavioral reports across the district. What I noticed that teachers and principals are really holding students to expectations, accountability, having conversations around behavior on the playground and in the line and how they're working with students. So it's really good to see the level of individual conversations with students on a full range of behaviors, pre-K all the way through high school. So it's good for me to get a snapshot of how things are in the building. And I think our teachers and principals are very busy setting those expectations and making sure the school runs smoothly. On September 20th, I met with 20 community members, alumni, parents, students, administrators, the school counselor, and teachers, talking about designing a class that will help students plan their future. We were able, through resources that were provided through the Mountain Views Innovation Fund, contract with Dustin Liu from Stanford University, He was only supposed to come for one session, but he was so excited to hear that everybody was going to be in person that he flew from San Francisco to be with us for 2 hours. We had a great session. He will be back with us at the end of the month to do a longer session, thinking about what would a class look like, what will we cover, and then we'll have a final meeting where we'll put together a description that will go on the course catalog. Also wanted you to know that September 30th was the end of using ESSER money. It is gone. And as we often talk about in this office, leave no dollar on the table. So we had some money left over for furniture. So myself and the head of buildings and grounds have selected furniture to place all through the hallways at different locations in front of the gym, as you walk through the main door, up by the just so that students have places where they can socialize and hang out. Right now, they're either sitting on the floor or on the windowsills. And so we really wanted to have some more appropriate furniture. Spoke with Owen about some couches for the senior lounge, though I nixed his navy blue
Yeah,
color.
I did. I heard about that.
Yes. So we have some new couches and new back chairs that are going into the senior lounge. So it'll give us a chance to see what kind of furniture the students like. And again, make that building more welcoming for the students that are there now. 2 other really quick things. I wanted a couple shout outs. Wanted to recognize Lauren Gagney, who's our Spanish teacher at Woodstock Elementary School. She has been working with a student on the football team who does not speak English and has been translating all the games. His knowledge is soccer, is football. Lauren's knowledge of football is 0. So we're understanding, and there is no word for tackle in Spanish. So she's done a great job and really stepped up and allowed this student to fully integrate with the football team. I also wanted to say today, Saturday was World Teacher Day. And so we started tradition on the day Monday following or thereabout is to recognize those teachers who have served the district for 10, 20, and 30 years. And today I gave out 5 30 years. We have 2 teachers at Killington, Lisa Laird and Missy Knipes. 1 teacher at Prosper Valley, and that's Jill Koresh. And at the high school, Joni Kennedy, who is the admin assistant, and myself for 30 years of service to the district. So it's a new tradition and teachers are really appreciated. So we try to do it not during Teacher Appreciation Week, but at a different time in the fall. So it's special. We do it right in their classroom and they have no idea we're coming and it's really been fun.
Well, congratulations to all of those folks, including you, Sherry.
30, yeah, it's kind of scary. So that's my report.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Sherry? All right, we'll move into with Raph, Director of Technology and Innovation.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be really brief because we're going to be talking more about enrollment a little bit later on the time scheduled appointments. Just a quick update. We've been doing some security updates and investigating some different packages to improve our security posture. So we installed a new door access system using our last ESSER funds here at the central office. And we tried one location to see if it's something that we want to expand out to other locations then. So that's new. So you may notice a different way you're coming in and out of the building now. Second piece, we're looking into ways for teachers at the middle school, high school to be able to put the building in lockdown themselves quickly. And so we're looking at a couple different solutions for that to happen. And we're going to be evaluating those and then moving forward with something in the next month or so.
Any questions for Raph? Thank you, Raph.
Thanks.
Shana will give a report on the student support services.
Good evening, I'm Shana Kalnitsky, and I wanted to share some highlights of our department from this month. I'd like to give a shout out to the nursing team who has organized a flu and COVID vaccine clinic, not only for the educators during the in-service day, but also for the community. So if you're looking for more information about that, definitely check the communications that the principals in the building sent out. The one for the public is on October 12th. The other note that I wanted to talk about is that Raf and I have been doing some data collection that we need to send off to the state. And our homeless data has decreased by a third from last year to this year. So we have seen a decrease in families in transition who are struggling without housing. The third thing I did put in the board book notes, but I wanted to speak a little bit more about it. And we have some work going on that's being led by our interventionists in the district. And they don't just, pull kids out of class and work with a small group of students, but they're also teacher leaders. And currently Kristen Hubble is teaching a class, the letters class that has been taught in the past by Julie Brown. And Julie Brown has passed the torch to Kristen, so Julie can be in the buildings and in classrooms with our teachers, co-teaching with them, modeling lessons, and informing their instructional design. The interventionist will also be co-facilitating the in-service data days in October, in November, and they'll be doing that work with the principals and working with teachers to look at their beginning of year mathematics and their literacy data so that they can design action plans to increase the outcomes of whole classes of students. And the one that I wrote about in the board book is actually Marcia Davis, who's an interventionist, reading interventionist in the middle school and high school. And she has been consulting with teachers and working with students, but she brought this new reading program called Rewards to our attention last year. And she dabbled with it a little bit. And this year, she and Julie Brown and Lauren Sullivan Justice, who is the department chair for the English department, are working with a group of teachers on Late Start Wednesday to support their implementation of using this rewards program across the middle school and high school. So teachers will be learning how to use those materials, how to progress monitor, and really impact large groups of students.
Thank you.
You're
Shana,
welcome.
any questions?
Yeah, quickly, the reason that there are fewer students struggling with homelessness, is that because they found homes or because they gave up on this area and left?
When some of these families come to our area, they often stay with family or they're in temporary housing situations. We still have families who rely on other family that seems to be a little bit more stable. And then some people find other opportunities in more populated places, because as we know, it's very difficult to access public transportation, medical care, going to the grocery store, getting your kid a pair of sneakers. So they have, sought more populous areas.
Oh,
No, that was my question.
okay, sorry.
Sorry.
All right, well, thank you, Shana. You have a lot of strands to handle. Jen, would give a report from curriculum instruction and assessment.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so I have a few things to share out about today. First, I want to speak to our work in building our teacher capacity through professional learning. So we've launched many efforts so far. We have our Math Pact work, which is picking up teachers that haven't had that experience yet, learning about how we teach math in our school district. We have Kristen Hubble teaching letters, which is a replacement for Julie, as Shana mentioned. So the teachers that haven't had that learning about literacy yet, they are also getting picked up and having that learning. And we are also having our Late Start Wednesdays, which have started. And Late Start Wednesdays are one of the ways in which our teachers get to interact with and learn about our EID policy. And we have some great pathways this year, which teachers have choice over. Sherry is leading a group on a 10-day equity challenge where people get to look at their own biases and consider those and have a group conversation about how those biases might be impacting their daily practice. Mary Guggenberger at Killington is working with her teachers to design equitable learning opportunities for all students. And we have book studies around unconscious bias and even a deep dive into restorative justice at the high school and middle school. So we're in that launch and lots of learning opportunities happening, and just wanted to thank everyone for engaging in that. Secondly, I wanted to share that Aaron and I are taking a course offered through the BPA about new education quality standards that are going to be happening to us, with us in 2025. We're engaging in this course because we have a lot to learn about what these new standards bring. It is a multi-day course throughout the course of this year. A lot of curriculum directors and principals and superintendents are taking it. And our early experience with education quality standards has been interesting. For example, the purpose statement alone is 4 times the length in this newest version. And in that length includes some language that I thought I'd share with everyone around the table. I actually want to read it directly from the education quality standards, because I think we're actually well positioned to take on this work with our equity, inclusion, and diversity policies. So if you'll please, let me just read it a little bit, if that's okay. These rules require each SU, or SD, to strive for culturally responsive pedagogy that critically examines and imparts comprehensive historical and socially conscious understanding of the causes and effects of bias and discrimination, why all persons should have equitable access to social and economic opportunity, why persons and institutions must identify and prevent individual, group, and systemic racism, discrimination, and all forms of unfair treatment. And finally, the positive and multifaceted contributions of different social, cultural, racial, linguistic, ethnic, and indigenous groups to the historical and ongoing project of building and strengthening democracy in the United States and globally. That's language that did not exist in the previous education quality standards. It requires a lot of work for us. And so as we dig into these standards and understand them more, we're going to have to evaluate how we meet the standards in a way that also meets our EID policy, but we are well positioned. And so I just wanted to share that those are going to be coming out in the next year.
And Jen, who provides those standards? Who writes them?
So they were written by a group called the Act One Ethnic Studies Group, but ultimately they come from the State Board of Education.
Lots of people I had an opportunity to contribute, so the groups of superintendents were working, lots of people were involved in writing these standards. That may be why they're so long.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot to unpack. I mean, there's a
It
lot
is.
of words.
Going to be years and years worth of work.
Yeah,
But
I would agree. It's challenging.
How do we get evaluated on these things?
Well, they don't have.
sure you might have something to say.
Oh, no, I know for sure. I was at the meeting when they said they don't have a way of evaluating it at this time.
Well, I was at a meeting with the Secretary of Education, interim secretary on Friday, and I think what we're looking at, and the Superintendent's Association, identifying the top 4 or 5 standards that can be assessed and really focusing in on those standards, because a number of the ones that are in there, there's no way to assess it. So working with the AOE and the Superintendent's Association, really narrowing in what are some of these standards that are accessible, and then how do we set those standards across this? So I think it's a point of conversation at this point. It's a long document.
Yes, Adam.
Just an observation of, and Sherry will recall this and maybe some other folks too, but what was it, 4 years ago, at a district just south of us, the superintendent, his demise basically came around promoting just some discussion of what you're doing and the work that you're investing in. And it was really disheartening to kind of witness that, of the lack of, progression in terms of thought process. And it all really started around, he was fully supportive of a couple of high school students doing some shared readings during the summer. And some members of the community caught wind of it, and you would have thought that he, had done something extreme, right? But here in this district, and I think this is a really nice comment about where we are, this is, the district, the teachers, people are fully invested in this. And granted, there's not a big public turnout tonight, but there's never been one peep, and never was there, right? At the same time that Zach was going through that. In this district, any concerns or reservations about, how dare we think more progressively and introduce some new thought concepts into education.
And the sad part, Zach was a major author of this
Yeah.
standards.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us that.
No, thank you. Anybody else?
Anna?
Anna,
Good evening, all. Thank you for taking my question. Does this have to be specific to educational content? Because when I think about what most folks, not necessarily in our community, but general population, the most forward-facing representative thing of our community at the Mountain Views and specifically at the middle school, high school is the mascot. And when thinking about, the biggest things that are going to make our community as equitable as possible and attract more diversity, this is a point that we've dug into before and had great momentum. Is that something that could be a priority when we look at making our community more inclusive?
great thought. Thank you, Anna. Anybody else?
I just have one more
Yes,
thing to
go
share,
ahead.
sorry. I should save that for last. No, this will be quick. I just wanted to say that the middle school, after going through the AMLE evaluation last year, it's sort of a self-evaluation and with actually feedback from parents and students about where our middle school can improve. One of the results of that was a focus on improving our advisory program. So I just wanted to share that more professional learning that's happening is our middle school team is going to be meeting with the Middle Level Education Association 3 times this year to do a book read about best practices around advisory and consider how to implement those for next school year. So I just wanted to share that that was one outcome of some of that evaluative work last year, and we're going to continue to improve there in advisory.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, the Director of Finance and Operations, Mr. Jim Fenn.
Yes, I'm up here on the Maine coast, but I'm ready. The finance office has been working with the leadership team as we continue to work on our budget proposal. As we've discussed, our target reduction in spending is $2,390,000 and some change, of which a little over $1 million is coming from our debt refinancing, with the remaining $1,383,788 be coming from sustainable reductions in the budget. Our goal is to have the reductions cause the lowest impact possible on student learning at all levels in our district. As you look down through my notes in the agenda, you can see the areas that where we at this moment we believe the funding is coming from, and we continue to work on that, and we'll have something for the finance committee shortly, and then for the full board in December, but the finance committee later this month and again in November. Just wanted to bring you up to date. There's been a recall on the charging system on the 12-volt system on our electric buses, so they're currently out of commission. Doesn't impact our daily routes. The only thing impacting that is the lack of drivers, which we're painfully aware of, and Emo and I are in contact on that. But they are out of service. We expect them to be back shortly. There was apparently an issue with a particular component in this version of the bus for about a 90-day manufacturing period, and we happen to get 3 of them with that problem. The other thing I noted is that the business office team is away for several days of software training. We're taking advantage of it this year because this is the last year that I put in the budget. It will not be in next year's budget, and as we move forward, we'll be reducing some of those opportunities. That's it.
Any questions for Jim? All right, thank you, Jim. We have our students report. Aiden's is here, and Owen said he will share his report verbally.
Yes. So I see Aiden was talking about the fact that we had a club fair recently, which was good. That was pretty well attended. We do that every year at the high school. It's organized by the student council. So different groups come in. We had, even groups from technically outside the school, like Change the World Kids were there. And I think it was pretty well attended. Definitely the most robust club fair we've had in my time. And then I think relevant to the board, I recently sent out an application to all students except seniors, because it's kind of useless to us for this position, not actually for a student member of the board, but for a student representative. And so we'll have some applicants to review in the coming weeks. We'll be working on that, whittling it down to, I think, probably 2 to 4 students that we would submit to the board for consideration. And then you could do what you wanted with those names. You could nominate them to the board as non-voting members, or you could not, you could hold off. But we think in the new year, we'll have some students in here just kind of shadowing, watching the meeting, seeing if they can sit through a hour-long budget proposal kind of thing.
Yeah, we figured if they could make it through the December
Yeah.
meeting.
It's real trial by fire. So that's the final, the final circle of the inferno there. And then so that they have like 2 weeks to submit their applications. I've gotten a few already, actually, 2 or 3. Also, we're working on the Student Leadership Summit. I'm meeting with Dr. Sincamani in the morning on that. So that's well underway. We're definitely far ahead of schedule on that. And other than that, no, I mean, we had freshman elections, our teams, football is killing it. Other teams are on a gradient there, but yeah, I think students are doing pretty well.
Great, thank you, Owen. Any questions for Owen? Comments?
Just that you guys keep us updated about your college admissions process.
They've got some
Okay.
lofty goals.
Lofty goals.
You won't just.
No, I think actually had me take a look at the application and say yes or no to any questions like I would, right? I was like, oh, every board member had to do that. Exercise and, talking about your leadership skills and the things you've done that would make you a good proponent for this position. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really good. Thank you. All right, we're going to move into our time schedule appointments, starting with the opening enrollment from Rath.
No, he needs.
It's exactly the same as a coworker.
So, once a year, we take a deeper dive into our enrollment, and we usually do it around this time for a couple of reasons. So our enrollment is directly tied to our education funding. So there's a period of time in the state of Vermont, the 10th to the 30th day of school, we refer to it as the ADM period, when we submit data to the state about our enrollment during that period, and the state uses that in their complicated formula to allocate resources to us. So enrollment is always something that we're really acutely aware of, and I've been really appreciative to work with Jim, and we've kind of fine-tuned some systems so that we're sharing data as quickly as we can, and that he's able to use that in his projections. So, and the other thing to remember about the ADM period is that what I'm going to show you today is an enrollment of students who are enrolled in our schools. Our ADM also includes pre-K students who are enrolled in private pre-Ks. So there is a little bit of difference there. And so this is sort of a slight underestimate of what our actual enrollment would be for ADM. So to cut to the chase, our district enrollment is stable at 1,001 students. This is exactly the same number that we had in September of last year. But there were some big changes at some schools, which I'll go into. So overall, our enrollment is stable, but there's been quite a bit of change in some of the schools. So this table is in your board book, but just wanted to kind of walk through it as well. As you can see, the biggest change occurred at Barnard Academy, where as of right now, there are 57 students. Last year in September, there were 71 students. So that ends up being a reduction of 20% for the school and 14 students, who are not enrolled there any longer. Kind of going school by school, you'll see that, Killington and Reading had a larger percentage change, but, pretty modest changes in terms of the actual number of students compared to last year. Prosper Valley had a pretty large increase. And this was due to a larger, 5th grade class that came up and a relatively small 7th grade class that picked up. Woodstock Elementary also had, an increase. But I believe this is due in large part to adding another pre-K classroom, to Woodstock Elementary. So those pre-K classrooms are included in that enrollment as well. And middle school, high school, a decrease of 13 students, compared to last year, for a decrease of 2.9%. So when we're looking at, our actual funding, Jim has taught me it's important to break out, what the tuition funding source is. And so the operating school district, those are the students that actually count towards our ADM and go into the complicated formulas. So Jim has worked to kind of take this number and estimate how many students we would have through that funding mechanism. So that number decreased some this year compared to last year. So we were down 1.3% there. What was really encouraging was that our students who were coming from other districts increased by 13 students, 14%. And so this was driven largely by enrollment from Wethersfield. So Wethersfield enrollment increased by 9 students, which is an increase of 47%. So that's a really big increase. And just sort of anecdotally hearing from Raina and Jim, a lot of that was students who were interested in potentially being part of the new build and who wanted to come here. And there was also a lot of work done to try to secure transportation for those students as well. So I know Raina was working a lot on that. In terms of town by town, wanted to just share sort of how it breaks down from towns where there had the biggest change compared to last year, and in terms of adding students, and then towns where there was an overall.
Reading had a 7% increase, which is really good because it's our smallest school. So I would think for sure they would try to kill them.
Rap, is this technically by town or by school?
By town. So this is
Town.
residents.
So even if they choose a different.
Correct. This is just absolute, number of students in pre-K through 12 who are residents of any one of the towns within our supervisory union. So it's just sort of interesting to see where there has been growth in the last year, and where those numbers are going down a little bit. Another piece that I wanted to highlight, this is focusing just on Woodstock Elementary. Woodstock Elementary is now pulling students from a number of different towns across, both within our district and outside of our district. The students outside the district are attending their pre-K programs. So they're coming for a couple different reasons. But in the past, the board has asked this question around, what does the town enrollment at Woodstock Elementary look like? And right now, there are 12 students from Reading who are attending Woodstock Elementary and 10 students from Barnard. So there's 22 students at Woodstock Elementary who, for one reason or another, have elected to go there instead of their home sending schools.
And this includes pre-K or it doesn't?
It does include pre-K, yes. Another question which has come up in the past has been how many students are leaving our district compared to the same period last year. So this year we had 40 students unenrolled from our schools. In the same period last year, we had 21 students. So a pretty big increase there. What the largest increase occurred in students who were transferring to other public schools in Vermont. Last year, we only had one student leave to go to another public school in Vermont. This year, we had 12 in the same period. And this is showing this kind of interesting shift around COVID where during the pandemic, we really saw very few students who were transferring to other public schools in Vermont. We saw a lot of students who were moving to another state or another country. Prior to the pandemic, it was the other way around. Most of our transfers occurred to other schools in the state of Vermont. So it's kind of moving back to a little bit like it was before the pandemic. And the last piece is just like comparison of our September student enrollment over time. You'll see that we were stable for the last 2 years, and that our enrollment district-wide is comparable to where we were in 2017.
And when did the pre-K start?
Good question. It's been phased in over multiple years, and the program has expanded. At the top of my head, I think our first program was in 2017, but it was not district-wide at that point. I don't remember which year it became district-wide.
Anna, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure that this is the appropriate time for it, but I just wanted to put it on everyone's radar. I'm aware of some folks that have been attending Reading from Wethersfield. They plan on just attending for pre-K until they have space to go with their local towns. But it'd be a really good recruitment opportunity to reach out to those folks and see, if there's a way. I've been trying to convince them, but if there's, things that they're looking or unaware of our district that would sell them on staying within our district as opposed to heading back to their Wethersfield schools.
Well, they wouldn't have a choice because they can't tuition.
They'd be paying out of pocket, right?
Right, and we do not allow for parentally placed students. So because Wethersfield offers an elementary school, they have to return to that elementary school. But and I think it only goes to 8th grade, Wethersfield.
Wethersfield goes to
Okay, so then for high school, they could choose Woodstock Union High School.
Thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a question. So, Barnard, population at the school went down 14. But the town itself only lost 7 kids. And then you showed a number of how many kids from Barnard are attending West. So, clearly some parents have decided to send their kids to West, even though they live in Barnard. And I think that's perfectly fine. I love the fact that we do our elementary school choice. Sometimes families want to buy a new home in a different town and keep their kids in the same school. So I think it's a great program. But are there sort of like guardrails on or limits on it so you don't end up with like a really high student to teacher ratio?
So annually, so there's a policy for that, interdistrict choice. Parents apply, they give a first and second choice. The first determinant is what is the class size currently in that grade in that building. And so I always look to the principals first. Do you have capacity in your rooms based on the number size? And if they don't, then I will decline that request. Once a parent chooses to shift schools, then you have to continue to stay in that. You can't keep switching back and forth. So there's some and it's on a website, so interdistrict choice, and parents have to make some decisions at the beginning. And Raina, great one, monitors all that. And so twice a year, I review that and make a determination whether we have capacity for students to move.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I think it's noteworthy that we're not declining. I think there are only 6 districts in the state of Vermont out of 55 that are maintaining or increasing in student enrollment. Most are having significant declines in enrollment, so that I would love to see an uphill pitch. And I wait till today and I don't harass Raf anymore about enrollment because it makes me crazy too. But I think it's really important to note that while other districts, majority in the state of Vermont, are seriously losing students, we are not. We are maintaining.
Yeah, I would hope that we could minimally maintain while we kind of feel the uncertainty about what a new build will look like. Because it's certainly talk around the state for many families of like, is this where, did we choose the right place? You know, hospitals, the whole state, it's not just educational, so the whole state's struggling.
Mhm.
And it goes back to this common theme of a declining state population. And an economy based in tourism.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Ralph.
Thanks.
Second, we have, Patty Kelly is going to present about math in Mountain View School District.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much for having me and letting me take a few minutes here to tell everybody about what's going on. Can I just make sure everybody can hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, great. So I wanted to take a few minutes tonight to just walk through some of the main pieces of math work that's happening across the district, let you know sort of what's happened the last few years, what we're moving towards, and answer any questions you might have. So we can go ahead to the first slide. So I wanted to tell you all about some of the professional development that's happening across the district in math. There's a lot going on. So Math Pact is about professional development days that we're offering teachers that are focused on this book called the Math Pact, but the intention with the book is around building our whole district math agreements. So having collaborative conversations to co-create our agreements across the district, pre-K-12, around our language, our routines, our representations, our instructional practices within our classrooms, and having opportunities to talk about those and engage in those and read research about all of those areas and really solidify that coherence across grade levels. So several years ago, we started with our 5 through 12 grade teachers that came together. We had 14 of them that worked together for 8 days on building those initial sets of agreements. The following year, so last year, I worked with 29 teachers across the district where we were working with pre-K through 4th grade teachers with similar components in terms of looking at these instructional aspects within their grade levels and across grade bands so that teachers could see how that progression of learning happened across the grade levels. The book that we're reading, thankfully, it has 3 different versions of the book. So it was the same core, it's the same core text, but we're able to provide those targeted examples for the grade levels that people are working in. And then this year, now we're at the stage where we've worked with that middle school, high school band. We've worked with the core of our elementary grade levels, but now we're bringing in, we have 17 people this year who are fairly new to the district. So the pattern has been the people who are new to the district, elementary grade levels, they'll do the literacy professional development the first year, and then they'll come and do the math work the second year. So a number of them are people fairly new to the district. And then we also have a group of special educators that are joining us this year. And we're going to work with them for 4 days. I'm able to compact it a little bit now that we have that core, some core documents and pieces refined. But it's been an incredible opportunity to build the collaboration across the district and really bring that like common language, common approaches to teaching and learning mathematics across the district. So that's been huge to be able to build that into the system, that we make sure that our new educators have those resources, have that perspective of how we approach teaching and learning for math in our district. And then that consistency for students across grade levels is already showing itself as we're going through classrooms, and the accuracy and the math vocabulary that students are using is pretty exceptional. I've been seeing it over and over again as I'm going into classrooms. And so another piece of professional development that we're offering this year is we have 14 people, DeVoe Sleeper, Jen Mayo, and myself are facilitating a book group. There are two different versions of the same series. One of them is a focus on addition and subtraction. Another one is a focus on multiplication and division. These books are written by very well-known Vermont math educators. And they're based on this progression of learning from an ongoing assessment project. It's again, very well-known in Vermont, set of trainings around that progression of how students learn addition and subtraction, and then how they learn multiplication and division. So that book group is coming together, and we've already had one meeting that was an amazing discussion. With that, we also had 4 teachers, including myself, who had an opportunity to join another neighboring district over the summer and do a really in-depth training for the addition and subtraction strand. And so we're building that capacity in the district, having that depth of knowledge. This is a really good opportunity to increase everyone's capacity in that way. So in addition to that, we also had conversations last year with really wanting to make sure that paraprofessionals across the district were supported with their math and literacy toolboxes, as well as their social emotional learning resources, so that they could support their students. So I'm also partnering with Lori Beeland, Shayna, and Julie Brown and myself, and we're doing a series for the paraprofessionals across the district to support them. So I'll be running 2 sessions of our Late Start Wednesdays, focusing on the math progressions and math tools that paraprofessionals can use for working with students across the district. It really is providing, again, another opportunity for that common language, that collaborative approach, so that we're all understanding and supporting teachers, or supporting students in similar ways. We still have our math equity work group that has been working for a number of years now. That was a group that was formed before I came here, and this is my 4th year now. And so that work group is pre-K through 12th grade teachers. We have 14 of us on the committee. We have meetings about once a month, and we tend to meet for 2 days during the summer as well. That is more of a broader view of our mission, vision, and goals for the district. And so we are mapping out our action steps, our specific goals and action steps related to assessment and reporting, student engagement, our instructional practices, and our systems, and our collective efficacy. So that work is ongoing, and again, another opportunity for us to make those connections across the district and make sure that students are having similar experiences across schools, having access to the same types of supports and resources, and that we're being really efficient and thoughtful about how we're working across the district. Another piece that I have put together, I started this last year, but I send out a monthly newsletter to staff so that I can provide updates. I tend to link new research articles or something that's in sort of the math world that might be interesting to I do just send it out to the elementary group right now. That might be some new learning for them, or something that's related to work that we're working on. I'll also put in professional development opportunities that are being offered regionally. So outside of our district, the Agency of Education is offering a number of math-related professional development opportunities that are short sessions after school. And so I make sure that educators know about those and have access to them if they're of interest. So we can go to the next slide. Another piece of our math that is happening across the district right now, our K through 4th grade teachers are, a number of them are piloting 2 different math programs. So the math programs, it's a little bit confusing, but essentially The program itself is illustrative mathematics. So the two publishers that we're piloting, two different publishers' versions of the same program, which is a little odd. It's not something that we've seen before in the publishing math program world, but it's working out really well because we're able to see that the program itself, the illustrative mathematics, is a really high quality program. And we're seeing that the publishers have both added in different types of supplemental material, so different supports, how the online systems work. And so our teachers are testing those out. And so we have teachers that are testing each of those two publishers' versions of the programs. And we're going to come together in November to determine, we have a survey ready for teachers to get feedback and determine which one really meets our needs better. But already it's really been an opportunity for us to see how it can support having a really solid scope and sequence, prioritizing our instruction on focus areas and standards that we want to make sure students are having a lot of experience with. And again, it's those common routines, those common practices that we want to make sure students are able to bring from one year to the next. So one of the things about this program that's really been beneficial, and I've already had a lot of conversations with teachers about it, is one component is these centers. So essentially there's some math related games, but what's neat about this program is it has multiple stages of the same game. So let's say a student might learn a game in kindergarten and they'll use it in context with kindergarten standards, but then they'll play that same game in first grade, but maybe now they're adding and subtracting. And then in third grade, they might play the same game and they're doing it with multiplication and division. And so the benefits of those from a teacher perspective and from a student perspective is that we're not teaching the routines in the same way. We're not spending the instructional time on how to play the game. We're spending the instructional time on the math of the game and really focusing on supporting building that content and that depth of knowledge within the content. And so we're already seeing, as I'm talking to teachers and getting feedback about that's been really helpful. So I have put together a lot of resources to try to support teachers and families with the information about these programs. So there's a Padlet that I have linked in the slideshow as well. That's for teachers to have some additional resources. So there's, for example, there's an article in there specifically about using this program with multi-age, multi-grade level classrooms. So we have a number of those classes in our district, and so it gives some tips for teachers around that. And so that's available for teachers to get some additional information. And then I also have put together the family information document to let families know a little bit more about these programs. I will say that once we do select one of these two programs, both of them have really fantastic family resource hubs is what they're calling them, but they're really wonderful series of videos for each unit that the students are going to be going through, and sort of overview videos and resources and things like that. So I think in that way, this program will really support our families knowing exactly what it is our students are learning in the classroom and the types of ways that they can support them at home. So next one. Just a few extra things that are going on. The way things that I'm doing to spend my days. I've been very, very busy this year, but some of the extra pieces are that I am booked in to all of the schools for at least one day a month, where I'm in the buildings and I'm there to support teachers and help out in whatever way they need. I can consult with them, I can attend meetings, I can help, connect people. I've already done one round in all of the schools, and it's been pretty amazing to be in the classrooms and they just have been so welcoming. The schools have been incredible, but it's also been a really great opportunity for me to, in more of in their environment, in the teachers' classrooms, I'm able to see things that when they're asking me for support about things, when I can go through and watch the classrooms in the other buildings, I can find people and help connect them to things that they're doing, things that are happening across the district in ways that they can support each other too. So that's been a really great opportunity for me to connect with everyone. I've also been able to facilitate some faculty meetings, helping to support the in-service days, of course, and data meetings in the schools. So that's really building. There's been a huge increase, in my opinion, the last few years, working with teachers around their data literacy and their assessment literacy, their ability to look at data and talk about the data, and in conjunction with building the common vocabulary, the common resources, we're able to look at math work and understand the progression of learning, understanding how to build supports for students in the classrooms and use data to inform our instruction. That's just, I feel like all of these pieces that we've been putting in place are starting to show how much of a difference it can make in us having very deep conversations about what our students need and how to move forward. So as I'm doing all of these pieces, I'm trying as much as possible to make myself available for teachers as they need it. If they want to just sit down and look at a piece of student work and have some feedback about what I'm seeing for a student and what supports might be helpful to them, or if they want to co-teach a lesson or help develop an instructional plan, I'll go in sometimes and do some more diagnostic math testing with students so that I can help them develop a plan to support them. Whatever it is they might need in that way, I'm trying to make myself available for that as well. And then with the new report card for the elementary schools, Julie Brown and I have both been developing report card supports for families. So I have a series of slide decks that will be available per grade level, aligned with the report card, so that we have linked resources for families so that they can access games, information, resources to help their children from home. I did want to also mention on the high school side, I've been working with the math department as well. We've been really looking at our math pathways for students to make sure that we have a really broad selection for students in terms of continuing their math education beyond the required credits, and that they have access to really strong math programming and options of pathways throughout the high school program. So that was a lot going on, but thank you so much for your time. And if there's any questions at all, please go ahead.
Questions from board members?
I'll just share. So I did the first math pack, grade 5 through 12, and previously math teacher, and it was just so exciting hearing a 5th grade teacher talk to an AP Calc teacher about how you teach ratios. And that may not sound exciting to you, but when you're a student and every time you have a different math teacher, they teach the same concept a little differently or use different language, we as the educators get in the way of students progressing. And so the more we can think about how we teach these core concepts over time that's consistent, we don't get in the way of students learning. And I think that is really important as someone who can, some students everyone loves math, Patty, and we can all do math, but there's some students, just the change of a word using a different language or presenting a concept a little differently can really interrupt a student's learning of a concept. So I really had a lot of fun, and Patty did an amazing job. And I know all the teachers who came to those trainings really appreciate that opportunity to talk about really important work that we want to do better.
I'll just make a comment. Patty, I heard from DeVoe Sleeper that she's really impressed with the results of the program she's piloting at West. That it's really working. So I thought that was encouraging.
That's great to hear. I've done a lot of work in the zone of curriculum and reviewing curriculum materials, and I've always really liked this program. I think the thing that makes me really excited, what I was hopeful for, was that teachers would feel that it was really usable, that they could access and find the materials that they needed really easily. And that seems to be the case, which to me, you can have a program that has all the bells and whistles, but if a teacher can't find it when they need it, it becomes overwhelming and not usable. They can't then transfer those resources for their students. But I'm finding that this program is very easy to find what they need. And I think it makes their work efficient, and they can really focus on students and what the students need to move forward.
Anybody else? Well, thank you, Patty. That was very helpful to hear all the different things that are going on and to understand better what the professional development side of things looks like. And it's great to hear that there's positive results being felt by the staff themselves. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Okay. We're now going to move to the committee reports. The Finance Committee, I know Ben is not here to speak to it, but does anyone from Finance have a report beyond what Jim has also reported? All right, well then we'll move.
Yeah, I was there, and what Jim is saying is the focus of the group right now is looking at what the budget needs are, how are we going to achieve those cuts, what are the different opportunities. So there have been some long meetings, and I think what Ben wanted to share, others are invited to come to those meetings if your committee isn't meeting during that time. So if you're interested in learning what the finance group is looking at.
We also spent a little bit of time looking.
Unmute in time. That's all I was going to say. Thank you.
We also spent a little time looking at some long-term stability measures such as a fund balance policy and other things. We'll spend some more time on those as we go forward.
Then we'll move to policy.
Good evening, everyone. So in keeping with tonight's theme on advancement of curriculum, and we have 3 policies that go along with that idea. So the first, and I'd like to 3 policies that we are for first read, and then we have one quick one that for adoption. So the 3 policies. The first one is D20, which is really curriculum development and coordination, really just sort of codifying that it's the responsibility of the board to collaborate with the districts to oversee the curriculum development. And part of that, has to do with that you basically need to follow the state board's guidance, et cetera. We also added on this basically what the definition of a curriculum is. So this is something, we wanted to have all 3 of these policies on board just again to codify the board's involvement. So I'm going to take them separately in terms of voting. So we're looking for a motion for the board to accept this policy D20 for the first reading.
Is there a motion to accept the first reading?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor of accepting this first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. So the D22 is selection of library materials, again, sort of similar in spirit to this, and this has to do with basically making sure that the library has a process for selecting and reconsidering library materials. Just for your information, this is coincident with a Act 150, which is passed this spring with by the legislature, which basically says you need to have a policy on board to be able to especially to evaluate if there's a challenge to the material, and also to basically make sure that your material is consistent with the values of the district of the school. So we are a public library, so we are with this policy we would be in compliance with that. So there is, a process. Part of this is a procedure, which is if there is a challenge to any of the material, there's a formal process to evaluate that. So again, this one I would like a motion for the board to accept this as a first reading.
Motion?
So
Thank you, Adam. Second?
Second.
Okay, Heather, did you want to
No, just
discuss?
second.
Oh, okay, thank you. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand on screen.
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Okay, and then the third one is D23, which is similar to the library one, but it's basically talking about the curriculum, actual material. And it delineates that the development of the curriculum and challenges for reconsideration would have to go through a process. And I put that process, we don't normally vote on procedures, but the procedure is actually there for your information. It's in a draft form. But if there were a challenge or a reconsideration of any material for the curriculum, there is actually then there would be a process for how that would take place. So and again, when you're voting for this, you're voting for the policy, not for the procedure. The procedures are developed by the administration. So I guess I'm asking for first to accept this as a first reading.
motion to accept as a first reading. I am on fire.
That's what we need to hear.
That's why I showed up.
Second.
Yay, there's Sam.
All right, thank you, Sam. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, I just have one more, which is really a quickie. It's basically that we passed a policy, I think this past fall, last fall rather, a year ago, that basically was F3, and it was entitled just fire drills. And I think Sherry told me at the time there was something new coming, and now that is really, it's the same policy and same text, but it's called option-based response to it. So it incorporates different actions that students can take. So it's not and faculty can take. So it's basically the same thing. I'm just asking to retitle the same policy. And I wanted that I was asking for that as an adoption, not to put it through all the steps of first and second reads. I just wanted to be able to change the title to update it, be consistent with the SBA.
Move to adopt title change for F3.
I'll go ahead and second.
Okay, Corinne, and then thank you. All in favor of the name change? Please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Abstain.
All right, building and grounds.
I'll just give a quick update. We did meet on September 16th. We have received a budget proposal from the engineer that had assessed the status of the roof and the beams that support it in the high school gymnasium. This particular proposal is to put together construction drawings that would allow the district to issue an RFP for a construction company to come in and make proposals to reinforce the beams and bring the roof back up to modern code for loading events, snow loading. And the committee was in favor of of engaging the engineer to conduct that work. So this is kind of like step one, get the engineering drawings that we need for construction and then go out and ask contractors to bid. It was a pretty small budgetary proposal. I think it was like 18,000 and it, fits within the current budget this year. So we approved that. We talked about projects that are remaining that need to be completed in the this fiscal year, so before June 30th. And there are still it's a short list, but there are some that that Buildings and Grounds intends to finish this season. And then we kind of set the stage for our next meeting in terms of being prepared for that meeting to rank all the projects that would go in the next fiscal year budget, so that we, select and do the ones that are most urgent, because we know we'll have a reduced budget going into next season. And then I'll just like anecdotally, we learned about a classroom in the high school where they decided for good reason to remove some sinks that were used for photography, and that process of like removing plumbing, exposed some very, very old pipes that sort of just fell apart in front of their eyes. And so now the request has been to add new sinks back to the ones that were removed. And you can't, because there's nothing to hook up to. The pipes sort of disintegrated. And I think it's emblematic of sort of what we're facing with the high school. And, in order to try to put a sink back in place, you'd have to start cutting through the cinder blocks and chasing these pipes until you found, potentially like solid pipe that you could work with, or you'd have to replace it all. And that's really, really expensive, really disruptive, all to have a sink back in the room. So I don't think Buildings and Grounds is going to support that. We did not support the effort to try to replace that sink. And so maybe the lesson learned is don't touch things that are working. Like maybe we shouldn't have removed those old sinks, because once you touch the old stuff, it's really hard to put in new stuff in the building. That's the report from Eugene, unless Joe, I think Joel's on.
Yeah.
Was.
Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
Not much, really. He hit the nail on the head here, what we discussed. Just Buildings and Grounds right now is in the middle of the seasonal transition. We're firing up all the heating systems. So next few weeks are going to be telltale. Hopefully things will run smoothly, fingers crossed. It's budget season. And as Matt indicated, we're going to be prioritizing projects here, because I know there's going to be some tough choices here coming down the line.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds. Negotiations, the report I can give is that we received today the letter from the support staff personnel that they would like to engage in negotiating their new contract. So that's John Williams, Ryan Townsend, and myself who are on that working group, or I don't know if it's truly a committee. I think it's.
No, it's committee.
Okay, well, I think it was gonna be a working group, but it doesn't really matter to me. So we'll be starting that process soon. Any other working groups? Yes.
Solely in an effort to save the policy committee some time, I just want to mention that the motion of accepting your first reading does not denote future action. So whether you'd like to bring it back for a second reading at your next meeting or adopt it at your next meeting, that will also take a motion.
Okay, and can we do them as a group of 3?
At your next meeting?
No, I mean, if.
Oh, no, I don't see one.
All right.
Motion to move all 3 towards second reading,
I'll second it.
what she said.
Okay, all in favor of the second reading?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Raina.
Point of order, there should be acceptance and then non-acceptance and then abstention for every movement. It shouldn't be everyone who accepts and then no one else gets to speak. Just point of order.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone want to speak at this time? Okay. All right, any other working groups have an update? No? All right, then we have a set of minutes to approve that are in the board book. So does anybody have a correction or a change that needs to be made to the minutes from September 9th? All right, can we make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Oh, yeah. Wow, you are really on
Second.
fire. Are all in favor of approving the minutes?
I
Do we,
Any
do we want to ask
Aye.
for any?
Any
Aye.
abstentions or nays?
Extensions.
Okay. Now we have time again for public comment. So if there's anybody who would like to speak, please let us know. Seeing no public comment, we do need to have, probably three, but probably brief, updates around labor. The first one being motion to enter executive session regarding a labor relations agreement under 1 VSA 313A1B. Is there a motion for the
I'll
public?
make the motion to enter executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you to everyone who's attended thus far. We probably will have at least one decision coming out of these 3 executive sessions. Is there a motion coming out of the executive session?
Yeah, motion to approve a proposal of buyout of the CBA members and proposed benefits change.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we're gonna need to, if we have any, anything besides nay, we have to do a roll call, so. All those in favor of the, proposal, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
That's Josh. Okay, the motion passes. I think for an abstention, I don't have to do a roll call. I think it's only for a no vote, but Heather may know better than me on that one.
No, it's perfect.
Okay,
All in favor,
All right.
abstain, abstention, perfect.
okay. Can I have a motion to enter executive session regarding an employee matter under 1 VSA 313A3?
So moved.
Carrie,
Thank
do you
you.
need me for the other 2
No, I don't.
sessions?
Enjoy,
All right,
enjoy the rest of your vacation.
all right. I'll see you later. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
So Katie motion second was,
Anna will
Who was-
second.
Anna.
Anna.
Okay,
Sorry.
so Sherry is going to just give us a very brief update on.
Don't forget to turn off the recording.
What I'm going to say. There was no action taken in the second executive session, and we have one more executive session to enter regarding an employee matter under 1 VSA 313A3. Is
I'll
there
make a motion that we go into executive session.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Josh. We have exited executive session with no action taken. We should be processing what we did well, what we can do better. Anybody have a comment?
I felt really good about my ability to put some stuff forward in the motioning department. And I just want some appreciation. Sam, if you're here and participating, maybe you could validate me.
Adam, I'm literally just here to validate you. Like, that's my whole purpose on this board. So,
Adam,
great job.
I couldn't have seconded all those motions without you initiating them. I do want to have a call out for Heather Lawler for bringing up the abstention option. Thank you, Heather.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for all the thoughts you shared, Heather. Appreciate it. I
have one thought, and maybe we can just consider it. Each of the directors presents at every board meeting. And I think that's a lot for them to come to these meetings once a month, kind of adds to their job, right? And, you know, if you're, maybe if they came, maybe just 2 directors each month, we rotated, it would, maybe we get more value out of what they want to share at that meeting. Just a thought. I mean, I'm not saying we couldn't do this without Jim Fenn. I think he's sort of very different.
What about me? Can I skip?
Okay, you can, next month you get off.
I'm talking about the directors that report to you.
Yeah, we can alternate.
It's just something to think about. Could we alternate?
Well, I think when the report speaks for itself, they don't need to say it again, assuming that we
Still
all
provide
read it. But if there's something particular that they would like to highlight, I don't have a problem with them coming remotely either. I mean,
Yeah, I would almost encourage like.
especially the ones that live far
Unless they
away.
really want to be here in person, let them go home and do it from the comfort of their house. Like,
Yeah.
How do you feel about principals? Do you want principals here?
I think principals could be remote unless you have like some understanding it's important, like it's something pretty pressing, right? But I personally think that's a very, virtual communication is pretty effective.
Is it required that principals?
I've required.
Interesting. I just thought they were.
Just go get it.
I did. I thought that. I was like,
Well, I mean, it's not like I twist their arms, but in terms of representation questions, but with Zoom, it does make it really different. I know that would be really kind and they would appreciate it. But I felt that board wanted them there, so I've been tough loving them. So that's.
Well, it's good information. What they offer us on the report is very good information with lots of links. And, but I think if they have something particular they want to call out, that's what they should do, but they don't have to recap the whole thing. Assuming we're all literate here, so you speak about literacy. And, honestly, probably some people don't look at the board book till afterwards, and because they do say something about the report. And they want to follow up with that, but I think we should be humane about, some of them drive long distance.
Sure.
I know that.
Thank you. Good feedback.
All right, anything we can do better? Well, and Matt gave us a proposal on that we could do our meetings better with, not having so much of that.
Maybe less heat.
Less heat.
Don't even get, let's not talk about the systems.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, Adam has moved it.
I'll second.
I is seconding it. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, all.